It's finally happened, the most unsurprising transfer news of 2025.
It looks like we are now pretty much on the brink of it becoming official that he'll make that move in the summer when his contract expires at Liverpool.
Trent Alexander-Arnold to Real Madrid is unofficially a done deal, but behind it there is so much more that went down. Why did Real Madrid choose Trent? Did they really have that many options? And now they have him, what's the game plan with him on the side? It's a lot, all of it. At least that's what we thought. But for the player and the club, it's been pretty straightforward.
It didn't come as no great shock. I think we're all expecting, Trent to be in a Real Madrid shirt next season, and this was going to happen at some stage before the end of the season.
To be honest, yeah, 6 months left on his contract. It was already clear Trent was going to leave Liverpool, but that's one thing. Leaving for Real Madrid, though, now that's another. So why did they sign him then? Well, the obvious reason has to be the stuff he displays on the pitch. You get the idea.
But it is world class. We've never seen passing and crossing from a right back of that type ever, I don't think. And I can include all the great right backs sort of in terms of globally, not just ones who've played in the Premier League. It's absolutely sensational.
With Trent Alexander-Arnold, we're dealing with a player who, according to his manager, makes the highlight reels without the goals.
And I enjoy highlight videos, sometimes more, sometimes less, but the Trent Alexander-Arnold highlight video is insane because you don't need the goals.
Trent Alexander-Arnold is that good, and now Real Madrid wants him. But that's not quite it. I mean, yeah, we know Trent is good, but that's a statement everyone who watches football has probably figured out by now. So the stuff on the pitch can't be the only reason Real Madrid wants him. There has to be more, and there is. The system. When you think about Real Madrid, especially this season, with the players and the team they've got, you can see the idea shaping nicely.
When they are on the ball, they go into a 2-3-5. And why is that?
This was even before Mbappe arrived, but it's a shape that remained the same. Notice the position Dani Carvajal takes up that earlier clip. He's almost acting as a winger, and that again is due to the system. Real Madrid need wide quality. Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham, and Rodrigo are all very talented players with different styles to how they play. But one thing that's common with them because of the system is that they like to play centrally, and doing this opens up a lot of width on the far side. And with Trent and his quality, from areas like that, I mean, imagine pulling this off for Real Madrid. That's the idea, that's the goal. Because that front three, or front four, will attack centrally, the width needs to come from somewhere else, and with Trent in the team, it'll be him. Now, there has been talk about Trent's ability to defend, particularly since he'd be coming to a Real Madrid team in a league that has a lot of quality wingers.
People would think that the responsibility of a right-back is to be able to defend, and the fact that Trent Alexander-Arnold can't is
When you say
problematic.
can't
It's
defend,
just not true.
He can't defend, or can he? Just looking at his defensive numbers this season, he's improved from the previous campaign. Take this guy for example. Connor Bradley has become Trent's understudy since the start of the 2023-24 campaign, and after his breakouts, which continued into this season, and that tackle on Mbappe, followed by a series of impressive performances. The idea started building, that while Bradley might not be as good going forward as Trent, he offers much more defensively. But just looking at the numbers now, it tells a different story. Trent, with 3.7, has won more ground duels than Bradley's 3.5, has more ground duel success rate at 48.88% than Bradley's 42.42%, has more interceptions with 1.3, more block shots with 0.4, and more tackles made with 2.8 than 0.8, 0 and 1.5 in these categories. So what do all these numbers mean?
And, I look and people say, oh, Trent's not a good defender. He's not a great defender. He is a good defender.
The best way to sum it up, because of how good he is going forward, unfortunately, he's become a victim of his success. This doesn't mean Trent is a bad defender. He's good, but not great. Now here's the thing, because of the system, Real Madrid doesn't need him to be great. It balances out the setup. Think about that Champions League three-peat team from the 2016 to 2018. Look at the fullbacks and the idea is clear. What they lack on one side, they'd be able to make up for on the other. When Madrid had Marcelo, he wasn't the best defensively. There were lapses in his game, but what he could offer going forward was an ability Zidane didn't want to miss out on, and so what he did was structure the team in a way that allowed for more defensively quality on the right-back position with Dani Carvajal. This time it's the same situation with switch positions.
As you know, I try to be as much of a historian as I can about this club, and I've gone back and he's the best defensive left back in club history.
Ferland Mendy's overall performances might have taken a hit in recent years due to injuries and lack of consistent form, But the point here is, he's still a very solid player defensively, and with him in that fullback position, it can allow Trent the space and time to advance in the right-back position. This seems to be the main idea, but because it's Trent Alexander-Arnold, and because of how good he is, it opens up an entirely new possibility too.
The ability and the skill set that I've got is best suited to play in the middle of the pitch, and you get the best out of my specific skill set by playing in the middle of the pitch.
You can hear it from the man himself, and if this does become a reality at Real Madrid, it could be very, very scary stuff. The whole right-back situation might not even happen with Trent in Madrid, because he could play in midfield. At first glance, it sounds crazy. Not necessarily because Trent is a right-back, but because of the options Real Madrid have got. The likes of Jude Bellingham, Aurelien Tchouameni, Eduardo Camavinga, Luka Modric, Arda Güler, Federico Valverde, Dani Ceballos, all these names, and yet Trent could become an option in midfield. How? Well, it's because of what they lack.
I don't think he would solve everything, but certainly he would bring so much balance to this team, structure, control with the ball, controlling the tempo, controlling a lot of things that right now is not controlled.
Trent Alexander-Arnold is the Toni Kroos of right-backs. His passing is unmatched, and as we've seen over the years for Liverpool, he dictates the tempo and rhythm of games with his passing and his control. All the midfield options we mentioned for Real Madrid right now, despite the interesting makes with everyone, none of them have that ability to take control of the game and the tempo with their passing. It's a long shot to say Trent does end up as a midfielder for Real Madrid, but it could happen, particularly with his passing and his vision. We saw it at the back end of the 2022-23 season for Liverpool, where he was picking out passes like this. Now, I'm just saying, if you're Kylian Mbappe or Vinicius Jr., having Trent on the right is great, but having a player like him meters behind you, knowing all you've got to do is simply time the run because he can find you from almost anywhere with his incredible signing, nah, you'd give up part of your wages just to get that deal done. Just thinking about the multiple positions he could play and what he could bring to the team with his ability is mind-blowing for Real Madrid. And yet there's still more. It's this. Trent Alexander-Arnold's abilities from set pieces are almost second to none. Free kicks, corners. He doesn't do pens for Liverpool because they've got Salah on it, and you wouldn't expect him to be doing pens for Real Madrid when they've got the likes of Vinicius Jr., Mbappe or even Bellingham. But with the other two positions, now that's where he fits in nicely. Again, that's where they missed Toni Kroos. Before he left, particularly from corners, Toni Kroos was the guy from corner kicks for Real Madrid, and he played them to devastating effect too. In the current team, and this is no disrespect to the talent they've got, but the numbers don't lie either. Before I get into that though, be sure to hit that subscribe button to Football Historia if you haven't yet, as we've got more content like this. Done? Alright, let's get back into it then. The numbers really don't lie. As of the 2022-23 season, Real Madrid was leading La Liga with the most goals from set pieces in the league with 17. In the 2023-24 season, they finished 5th in the league with 10. 2024-25, as of recording this, Real Madrid has scored just 5 goals from set pieces in La Liga. I mean, sure, you could argue that they're not orientated to rely on set pieces to do the damage, but it's still an aspect of their game that's dropped considerably since Kroos left. And Trent over a dead ball? It always usually ends up in one outcome: back of the net. With the set pieces, there's another sub-factor that makes Trent a must-have for Madrid. Vinicius, Mbappe, Rodrigo and Bellingham, pretty decent choices. But when you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team, he's the one you want over a dead ball directly at goal. He's been scoring free kicks at an impressive rate for a while now. When you put everything we've said so far into consideration for Trent, for Real Madrid, they're only really left with two things. The first, it's the squad they've got. This directly affects Trent Alexander-Arnold too. Again, this is no disrespect to Liverpool, but since he hit the highs of that 2018-19 season with the Reds, his numbers have experienced ups and downs, and Real Madrid has capitalized on this. Between the 2018-19 season to the 2021-22 season, Trent put up assist numbers of 16, 15, 9 and 18 assists in those campaigns. 18 assists for a right fullback is insane, by the way. But as we know, after the 2022-23 season, where he bagged 10 assists in all competitions, Liverpool has been rebuilding. But the whole point with this is, it's not to say Trent's ability to create has reduced or diminished, but the teammates he's got at the moment are converting less than the ones before. Still, no disrespect to Liverpool, but creating chances with Darwin Núñez or Luis Diaz on the end of them is a completely different scenario to creating chances with Kylian Mbappe or Vinicius Jr. on the receiving end. Real Madrid knows the quality of players they've got in attack. It's scary. All that team needs right now is that main creative force, which once he arrives will be Trent. And if it all goes according to plan, servicing the players up front, it'll rain goals. It just has to. And then the other angle, the one that's dependent on a situation happening, but one that could become a very possible reality this summer.
For me, Xabi Alonso will probably be the Real Madrid coach.
Xabi Alonso to become the new Real Madrid head coach?
Resumed contact with representatives for Real Madrid manager Carlo Ancelotti. According to Globo, any deal with Ancelotti would not be agreed to until this summer's Club World Cup.
It could be a domino effect the club is looking at that ultimately affects Trent in the long run. Right now, as it is, the expectation is for Carlo Ancelotti to continue as the Real Madrid head coach until after the Club World Cup in June. But after that, his future is very open. He could leave to become the new head coach for the Brazilian national team, and that report is gaining traction fast. If that does happen, Xabi Alonso is the ideal candidate to replace Ancelotti as a new head coach of Real Madrid. And should he do so, Trent Alexander-Arnold could become the Real Madrid version of what he did to this guy. Bayer Leverkusen under Xabi Alonso shocked the world in the 2023-24 season, winning the Bundesliga for the first time in the club's history and going the entire domestic season unbeaten. And a key reason for that was the form of the man you just saw in the earlier clip, Jeremy Frimpong. He had 14 goals and 10 assists in 47 matches for Leverkusen last season, 24 goal contributions as a right wing-back? Wow. Now, this isn't easy to say. Alonso will use the same preset at Real Madrid as he does with Leverkusen, but if he does become the new manager, the emphasis he puts on attacking football will be an added bonus for Trent, because as we've touched on in the video, he might be good or average defensively, but going forward in that position, he is arguably the best in the world. Ultimately, it's down to one last decision Real Madrid must factor in choosing Trent. Dani Carvajal has been a solid option for years. In fact, in that conversation for the best right-backs in the world, he probably edges Trent to become the #1 pick in that position. But Dani Carvajal is 33. He's at that period where he's maintained a peak for years, and in a position that demands a lot physically, only realistically would have had a few more years playing at the top level before he begins to regress. This is even before he had that ACL injury. It's an important factor Real Madrid has to be looking at right now. Will Dani Carvajal come back the same after his injury? Will he be able to maintain the same levels of performance he was showing before it happened? I'm guessing right now they're being proactive after what happened to Eder Militao in October, his second ACL injury in the space of 3 years. For the sake of his career and how good he has been as a pro at the top level, you're hoping Dani Carvajal comes back with the same high energy he was at before his injury, but there's unfortunately the possibility that he doesn't. And the age factor too. All this makes for the fact that in a year or two, Real Madrid will need an ideal replacement in that position, and Trent is the guy. Now, there's been the argument that the only reason Real Madrid decided to lock in on Trent Alexander-Arnold is because there was no realistic option in the transfer market, which is very false. Just before he signed his new contract at Bayern Munich until 2029, Joshua Kimmich was one of the names linked to Real Madrid, as was Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremy Frimpong, and even Kyle Walker from Man City. But with all the names and the links, the sole focus from Madrid has been on Trent because he fits the profile perfectly. Trent Alexander-Arnold is a generational talent. He's redefined what it means to play as a right-back, the same way football had the Claude Makelele position, a role named after him because of how good he was. It's the same with Trent. On his part, Trent Alexander-Arnold moving to Real Madrid now, it's only taken his career to the next level. He's won every competition he has played in for Liverpool, bar the Europa League, and has been vice-captain of the club since the start of last season. People questioned his loyalty and said he'd never be a Steven Gerrard who gave everything for the club. Gerrard had the chance to go to different clubs and win trophies, but opted not to, even with Liverpool. In terms of winning the big ones, Trent at 20 already had the big one Gerrard watched slip away in his career. Moving to Real Madrid is going to be a challenge, but it poses another question. It's one thing for the club to want him, and it's another thing for the player to want to join the club, which are both all well and good. But do Real Madrid need Trent Alexander-Arnold then? Because the same way we've analysed this, when it gets down to it, there are a bunch of reasons why Real Madrid should not sign Trent Alexander-Arnold, and you can click the next video to find out.